Free agency has just started, and good God, it is off and running. A lot of big deals, and we're here to talk about it here on this Wednesday edition of the Fumblerooski podcast.
It may not have always showed it in the stat sheet, but you can see him making throws when he needs to make the throws.
Back-to-back games where he has 3 touchdowns. Someone's got to get that 6 or 7 spot.
He's an elite wide receiver as a rookie.
Truly a lose-lose scenario for both sides.
This is the Fumblerooski podcast by Power 8018 Radio and Secret Weapon Consulting. I'm Chris Costich, with me CJ Medeiros. It's going to be a fun one. Already 2 days into NFL free agency, we've got a lot of big deals. A lot of them ended up happening right before free agency started in terms of contract extensions, trades, you name it. But first, we're going to talk about more of what actually happened since Monday. Obviously, we delayed the episode from yesterday, what was Tuesday, to today because of everything that is coming out in terms of news stories. Like 5 minutes ago, from when we just hit record, it was said Russell Wilson is scheduling a visit with the Browns. Evan Ingram just signed with the Broncos, stuff like that. So new news is coming in by the minute, and we decided to delay it just so we could really get a grasp of free agency as a whole, more so just for the topics that we're going to be talking about on hand. First,
by the way, Chris, I'd like to point out that as of this recording is 4:15 p.m. Eastern Time here on Wednesday the 12th. That means all the contracts that were signed during the legal tampering period are legal. You made it, kids.
Yeah, well, signed. Penn isn't technically supposed to hit paper just yet up until today.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, well, it's not. Well, now they're legit.
Yeah, they're legit now. Free agency winners. Obviously, if you've listened to the show enough, we're avid Pats fans besides Justin Tucker, who's a Ravens fan. Ravens didn't really do a whole lot in free agency besides re-signing wow, his name's leaving me now. CJ, help me out here. Ronnie Stanley, yeah. That was the only move they really made, bringing back one of the better tackles in the league. But in terms of free agency winners, of course, we're Pats fans. So a lot of what the Patriots did, in our eyes, made them a winner. Now, obviously, you could say, well, they didn't get a receiver. The only receiver they ended up signing was Mac Hollins. And to that, I say, well, got him on a 1-year deal.
2-year deal, actually.
2-year deal, pardon. And for what he did with Buffalo, he had a solid year last year. And it's not like we're asking him to be a wide receiver one, and the contract obviously illustrates that. And the Patriots have already said that they're going to be looking for their wide receiver one, either via the draft or via trade. So right now, signs are kind of starting to point towards potentially Cooper Kupp, with him officially being released by the Rams a couple hours ago today. And so obviously Pats fans are going to be looking towards that to potentially get your wide receiver one, Cooper Kupp being 31 years old. So kind of going to be interesting to see what kind of contract you're willing to throw at him. But in terms of what the Patriots ended up doing is they ended up signing Harold Landry, outside linebacker for formerly for the Titans, part of the Vrabel regime as well. So getting some familiarity on defense. Robert Spillane, former linebacker for the Raiders, also a very good linebacker, had a very good year last year. Someone that's going to also be very good in a Vrabel defense. Carlton Davis, a veteran cornerback that's going to be a great number 2 to Christian Gonzalez. Milton Williams, former defensive tackle for the Eagles. Very, very good piece in that Super Bowl winning title that they just had. And Morgan Moses, who's going to be on the right bookend for the Patriots. So, like I said, you don't improve what you needed in terms of wide receiver, but if you're a Pats fan, they already said what they're going to be looking for in terms of the receiver. It's not going to be via free agency. It's going to be via the draft or the trade market. So, but when you look at everything else, they're already making strides in bettering their O-line, and they completely revamped the defense to the point where this could potentially be, I know we're still a long way out from the NFL season, but this is already seemingly like this could potentially be a top 10 defense for next season. CJ, what are your thoughts about the moves that the Patriots have made so far through the first 2 days of free agency?
First, I do have some news.
What
It wasn't official yet, but defensive tackle Javon Hargrave allegedly was going to sign with the Vikings. It's officially a done deal.
With the Vikings?
Yeah, because apparently some people were still trying to pry him away, but it's official. Javon Hargrave is a Viking. It is a 2-year, $30 million deal. We're going to update that on the podcast whenever we get around to that because, we're kind of an
We're
episode
doing things right now. We're doing things.
Yeah, I agree, Chris. But as for New England, some people say, oh, well, they just beefed up their defense. They didn't need to do that. It wasn't a pressing need. If you, as a Patriots fan, looked at our defense last year and say that beefing it up wasn't a need, and if you really think these signings were unnecessary, then I have some beachfront property in Wyoming I'd like to sell you. And I'll leave it there. But because as a Pats fan, I remember like RB2s and RB3s going over 100 yards on them. Don't get me wrong, Gonzalez is good, but defenders quickly figuring out, offense figuring out our defenders like, hey, let's just throw wherever Gonzalez isn't. Watching Jonathan Jones get picked on because he's a slot corner, God love him. And yeah. So there's that, Spillane, boosting our linebacker or their linebacker core. Harold Landry, actually a solid edge rusher, bringing some power to a team that desperately needs it, as I'm sure not many outside of New England are aware, but it was pretty scary. They couldn't generate any pressure. They either had the second fewest or the fewest amount of sacks. So do with that what you will. And look, I want Cooper Kupp as much as the next guy, and I know everyone's like, oh, well, tackles didn't want to, they couldn't get them. It's not that they can't, it's that they're getting turned down. Same thing with wide receivers. They took a big swing at Chris Godwin and he turned them down. Well, to be fair with Godwin, allegedly what I've been hearing is that it's not that he turned New England down or really anyone else down. It's that he just wanted to stay in Tampa. That's really what it came down to. He already had his mind made up. And the Patriots allegedly are going to take a swing at Ronnie Stanley. Apparently, New England had an offer ready should he have hit the market, but that just didn't materialize. He wanted to stay in Baltimore. Once again, that was because I know some other teams like the Chiefs and the Commanders are sniffing around him too. But it wasn't anti-New England or Washington or Kansas City. He just didn't want to go there. He just didn't want to leave Baltimore. And New England, as a fan, I hope they get Cooper Kupp. And look, I'm trying not to get my hopes up because I know he said he's curious, but New England, the team status aside, even when they were winning, they really couldn't lure in a whole lot of blue chip free agents. Like every so often, you'd get like Stephon Gilmore. But that was pretty much it. The blue chip guy and like Corey Dillon, but they didn't really come because look. Even when they were winning, they just have too much working against them. For starters, they're a cold weather team. And, something we would talk about off camera, players now, there are more divas in the league, let's just say. The mental fortitude of NFL players, at least if you listen to any of the sports talking heads, which they didn't play, but even the ones that do are saying the mental fortitude's declining. They just don't have what it takes to play in a cold weather team. And even beyond that, the taxes are just awful. They don't call it Taxachusetts for no reason. Even Bill Belichick went on Pat McAfee and said, yeah, the taxes cost me so many good free agents. And he like just dunked on their tax system to the point where some like state representative said, actually it's really good. It's like, nah, dude, you're costing us free agents. Change it. I can't.
Right.
This for Cooper Kupp or even Cam Robinson, the left tackle. I'm skeptical that they could do it, but I'm intrigued that they might. And if there's one thing I want to say to any Patriots fans that have upset that there's basically radio silence from them after a big splash to open, I want to remind you of one thing. They're monitoring everything. They're kicking the tires. They're in the loop. They're even looking at Will Fries and Javon Holland too. But you got to remember, like, these people are autonomous beings. They can choose whether or not they want to play there.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
there are some people, I was going to say there are some people that were saying, oh my God, we haven't heard anything from them. A certain fan who Chris and I know, who then realized, okay, well, at least they're trying. It's like, yeah, it's what we were saying the whole time, but it's whatever.
I actually wanted to throw this at you, not to attack you, because you're probably the biggest, one of the biggest things that you love to attack teams on when they don't do anything, get anything done during free agency, especially the Patriots, like, for example, last season, is if they don't get anything done, they like all the reports that come out and you're like, they're going to use this and say, hey, at least we tried. And now here we are. What comes around goes around, and you're like, well, hey, at least they're trying.
You know, you have
what's
a valid
what's the switch up this time?
Because there's no switch up. You're comparing apples and oranges. Because here's the thing. I'm saying that teams can use we tried as a crutch, right? However, that's just speculation. We actually know that they are. And these aren't half-hearted attempts. I'm just saying teams, and I'm going to name drop the Cowboys, you know, for like the past 3 years, they're going all in and they just don't do anything. The Cowboys are a team that do this. Okay, we tried. But with New England, you keep hearing they were in the mix. They were offering more. So respectfully, Chris, I know you're not saying this to attack, but it's kind of a bad faith point because you know that this is apples and oranges being compared. And I feel like you're just kind of clip farming, but it is what it is.
No, I 100% was. I just wanted to get you talking.
Oh, I know. But all jokes aside, I do appreciate the question. And look, and I know a lot of teams, once again, Cowboys, even the Patriots have done it before, but it's not like a half-hearted effort. That's the thing.
Yeah.
They're actually going out and trying. And there's a you see, the thing is, the fans got to decide, right? It's not up for the team to go, well, we tried. No. The fans will tell you whether or not you've tried because a lot of times they can tell. And all the reports are coming out like, oh, they're monitoring this. They're in the mix. They were offering more money. And if they offer more money and a player doesn't want to go there, like you cannot fault them. Unless you're Dallas where they offer pennies on the dollar, player says no, and they just go, I'm Jerry Jones. Time to go eat my ice cream and watch Matlock or whatever.
Yeah.
And yell at clouds.
I think that's a good way to wrap that one up. Our other free agency winner is the Chicago Bears. Mainly, they did a fantastic job of loading up their offensive line because that was probably the biggest, besides coaching from last year, the offensive line was easily the second worst thing that the Bears had to deal with last year. What do? Go get a guy like Joe Thuney. That's a great start. You've already improved 100 times what you had from last year just by getting Joe Thuney alone. Also throw in Jonah Jackson, Drew Dahlman, yeah, that guy. Throw in a 10-year vet like Grady Jarrett for the defensive line. That's huge. I mean, the Chicago Bears team all around is more of a younger team. Throw in a guy like Grady Jarrett, just a veteran locker room presence. Bang. You got Grady Jarrett, Super Bowl participant as well. He knows what it takes to get there. And if this is a Chicago team that wants to get there, this is a good guy to have. Especially, mention Grady, Joe Thuney, another guy. He has a shit ton of rings, a shit ton of Super Bowl appearances. Talk about a guy that knows how to get there. That's another guy that you're going to want, especially on the offensive side of the football with a young quarterback like Caleb Williams. Got a very young receiver in Rome Odunze. DJ Moore's been around the league a little bit. It feels like the Bears are starting to kind of put it together a little bit. And this has been a pretty solid offseason already for them to start.
Yeah, no, I agree. And by the way, we were talking about this before the show, but I'm going to mention it. If you saw me on my phone, this is why I'm posting it. Defensive tackle Malik Collins, recently released by the San Francisco 49ers, has signed a 2-year, $20 million deal with the Cleveland Browns. Browns Nation. Let's crap. No, I'm sorry.
Let's crap. Let's shake.
Yeah, because Russell Wilson's talking to the Browns, and I think that's very funny.
Yeah, that is. But your thoughts on the Bears and how they've been kind of rolling already in the last 72 hours?
Well, they needed O-line. They got O-line. That's great.
Yeah.
Because like you said, offensive line was a really big weakness outside of coaching. And, you told people like Larry Baram to take a hike. Tevin Jenkins is solid. Like, I actually think he's good, but you basically said we're going to go another direction. So you rebuilt the interior. You traded for Joe Tooney. You grabbed Drew Dahlman and you grabbed Jonah Jackson. That's good. Good job. The only issue now that I have, at least when it comes to offense and pass protection for them, is a very simple one. Caleb Williams holds on to the ball for too long. We've been over this at least 50 times, hyperbole, but still, before. And I'm tired of debating it. It's very clear. He holds on to the ball almost 5 seconds of play, which that's just not good. I mean, there are some games, like I said, where he just straight up averaged 5 seconds. I think his real average is like almost 4, but still.
Which is wild too, because when you look at the statistics, his QBR was a lot better when he got the ball out of his hands in under 3 seconds and with the quick action pass plays.
Exactly. Yeah. So overall, if he can stop holding onto the ball for half an eternity every time that he drops back, then the offensive line is going to do its job. But what I don't want to see is him continuing to do what he do, because look, you could have an offensive line. You can go in a time machine and pick guys out through history. You could end with an offensive line that's Joe Thomas, Anthony Munoz, John Hanna, Zach Martin, and Jim Otto. And even they couldn't block for a quarterback who's going to go back and hold the ball for like 10 seconds. So you got to work on that. And on top of that, I like the Grady Jarrett pick. Pass rush was a bit of a struggle. So it's nice to see. And same as run defense, too. So you got your big space eater there in the middle. And Odangbo was a great addition, too. I definitely, because, the Super Bowl showed that games are won and lost in the trenches. And that's what the Bears addressed, especially with the new coach, the offensive wizard himself there, Ben Johnson from the Detroit Lions. Overall, like, you can't hate it. You really can't.
Yeah. All things looking good in Chicago. And also got a honorable mention for free agency winner so far, the Minnesota Vikings. They've lost some pieces. They have. But they've also been able to retain and grab other key pieces to help them stay at where they were last year, if not better. And one of the big things, of course, was re-signing Aaron Jones. I think that was huge. Question is going to be at quarterback at this point, because you decide you're going to go away from Sam Darnold. Now you're trying to lay a foundation for JJ McCarthy. Basically, that's essentially the plan, because you decide not to re-sign Daniel Jones, and why would you? Of course. So you're laying the foundation right now.
Yeah. And look, if you don't want to sign Danny Derps, I get it. And I have some friends that are Giants fans, and believe me, nope, I don't think anybody understands it better than they do. Darnold, you were just in this weird little quandary with him, because on one side, I get he was good. On the other side, I'm sorry, you gotta be wary of these journeyman career backup, like aggressively mid quarterbacks that all of a sudden spring to life. Many teams have been burned by it. And the thing is, it doesn't make sense for you as a team, Vikings, to bite on this when you drafted a kid in the first round. And if he ends up being a bust, so be it. But I don't want to hear anybody say, well, you should have kept Darnold. And I'll tell you why. Because do you remember the last two games against the Lions and the Rams where he completely imploded, holding on to the ball oftentimes for 6 seconds of play,
How
just
could I forget?
throwing boneheaded picks, seeing ghosts again? Yeah, no, that was the real Sam Darnold shining through. And do I think he'll be fine in Seattle? Yeah, I think he's better than he was, but to say that he's going to put up these numbers every year, I just think that is a really inaccurate and downright dishonest assessment.
Yeah.
But and honestly, so you already got your Darnold replacement technically in McCarthy. That is good. Swell. Okay. You lost Cameron Bynum, not gonna lie to you, that does suck. But what you did do was that you rebuilt the defense. That's good. You got Jonathan Allen. You got Javon Hargrave. So your defensive line is already going to be ferocious. Keep in mind, I want you to really bear in mind here that they already have Jonathan Grenard and Dallas Turner. So let's not pretend that this is a defense full of scrubs. And they also went out of their way to keep guys like Cameron Bynum as well. And not Cameron Bynum, Byron Murphy. And guys like Bynum, that sucks. But everyone else, like Daniel Jones and Trent Sherfield that you lost, like they're replaceable.
Yeah.
Like you can replace them. But overall, you kept the guys that are most important, once again, outside Bynum. Like that sucks, but what are you going to do? And you beefed up your defensive line, which is really what you needed, because especially at the end of the year, you were getting gashed. Not to mention, you beefed up the offensive line as well, getting guys like Will Fries and Ryan Kelly. And you got corner Isaiah Rodgers from the Eagles. So overall, I think it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Oh, and he kept Aaron Jones. That's really important.
Yeah. That's very important because next guy up at that point is Cam Akers. So,
and he's solid, but he's more RB1.
Yeah. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about our free agency losers. This is the Fumblerooski podcast.
It may not have always showed it in the stat sheet, but you can see him making throws when he needs to make the throws.
Back-to-back games where he has 3 touchdowns. Someone's got to get that 6 or 7 spot.
He's an elite wide receiver as a rookie.
Truly a lose-lose scenario for both sides.
Welcome back to the Fumblerooski podcast. Chris Costich, CJ Medeiros. CJ, we talked about the free agency winners. Now we're going to talk about some losers. And the 2 teams that just jump out immediately are Eagles and the 49ers. Eagles, we'll start with them because I think the 49ers pretty much just shot themselves in the freaking face. And yeah, we'll get to that in a moment. Eagles, kind of comes to no surprise. You're going to find some cap casualties, especially with this new contract that you signed with Saquon or this extension. And you also add into the fact that there's going to be a lot more teams that are going to be trying to offer a lot more money than what they're offering in Philly. I mean, you're coming off of a Super Bowl win, and this is kind of what you have to expect, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your free agents are going to be poached left and right. Everyone's going to be throwing the bag at these players so they don't stay on this Super Bowl winning team.
Mm-hmm.
Try to knock the king off its crown or off its throne. Notable departures. Milton Williams, obviously he went to the Patriots. Josh Sweat, he ended up going to the Cardinals. Darius Slay to the Steelers.
Yep.
James Bradbury I'm
He's just a
blanking on
free agent.
just a free agent right now.
And he's terrible anyway.
Yeah. And CJ Gardner-Johnson, he was traded. I'm blanking on where right now.
Texans.
Thank you. So you lost some pieces, but I feel like obviously when we're talking about free agency losers, we're talking about the amount that you've lost. And obviously when we look at the Eagles, they lost a good amount. They lost some pretty decent cavalry here. But when you still look at what the Eagles have to offer in their roster, it feels like it isn't going to hurt them too much. But you also have the other suspicion of, well, this could also just be the beginning as well.
Yeah, so here's the thing with the Eagles, okay? They don't have a lot of cap space. That was a well-established fact. And you knew that, let's be real, guys like Williams and Sweat were going to go. Slay was a cap casualty. Gardner-Johnson was a salary dump. James Bradbury was terrible. And as of this recording, I'm not entirely sure they've signed a free agent yet. And I wish I was kidding, but I'm not. Yesterday, I saw a meme where it's like, it's one of those, did you sign a free agent yet? 31 teams. Yes, of course. Over 100 have been signed. Eagles, nah.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong. They did do some good. They did. For example, they got back Zach Bond. They did. That was great. Saquon was extended. But you lost Oren Burks to the Bengals. You traded Kenny Pickett to the Browns. That was funny. That was pretty much it. I mean, you got Dorian Thompson-Robinson through trade. You got Kenyon Green through trade. Once again, CJ Gardner-Johnson, gone. Josh Sweat, Milton Williams, Isaiah Rodgers, gone. And by the way, we don't know for sure, but Avante Maddox is probably gone. Mekhi Becton's probably gone. I mean, it sucks, but whatever. I think Kenneth Gainwell signed somewhere too, but he's not really super important, so I don't really care. But yeah, also Brandon Graham's probably going to retire. But the thing with Philly, don't be worried too much because half of your defense is on its rookie deal. Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, the linebacker from Georgia, Nakobe Dean, Reed Blankenship, Quinion Mitchell, and Cooper DeJean. Like they're all on their rookie deals, so honestly, it could be worse. You had just because you're losing talent, granted, but you had the talent to lose. So
yeah,
but I'm not going to say, oh my God, they're going to miss the playoffs next year. Well, I mean, you could if like your entire team gets hurt, but the odds of that happening are 1 in a million. But I'm just saying you had the talent to lose, but it doesn't make it hurt any less.
Yeah. Yeah, the Eagles in terms of contract signings have been very, very good in the last few years and the way that they've been handling these contract situations. And I can imagine that they're going to throw the bag at these rookies when the time is right and not let it get out of hand. Like, like certain teams in Ohio like to do, like put on the hands. They got a couple great guys that they could extend before the market gets a little out of control.
Certain too late for that, I fear.
Black and orange stripes. Yeah. 49ers. Good God. Where to start here? So he lost Deebo Samuel to a trade.
You lost everyone, basically.
Yeah. Kyle Juszczyk, Dre Greenlaw, Javarius Ward, Aaron Banks, Talanoa Hufanga, Elijah Mitchell, just to name a few. You're gonna lose Brandon Ayuk most likely. You're most likely gonna end up trading him. And for what? To throw Brock Purdy the bag? Like that's basically what this is set up for. And at this rate, let's assume that you do lose Brandon Ayuk, and pretty sure they lost Jawan Jennings too, right?
I don't think so. I think he's still on the team.
Is he? All right, then I guess that'll change up what I was about to say next, but point still proves correct. Your top 2 wide receivers at that point is going to be now I got to look up the depth chart because the names
Ricky
are
Pearsall
Ricky
and
Pearsall.
and once again Jawan Jennings.
Yeah, those are going to be your
They
top 2
don't
targets.
trade. I mean, if they trade Ayuk.
Yeah, if they trade Ayuk. You also have Demarcus Robinson, who isn't bad, but at that point, it's just like, what the hell are we doing here? You missed out on potentially getting Joey Bosa and try to team up the Bosa brothers on the bookends of your D line. That could have been pretty cool.
Apparently, they were going to, but Buffalo was just able and frankly willing to pay him more.
More on a 1-year deal.
Yeah. Niners moment. They made their bed. Now they got to lie in it. They hoarded all this talent, and now the talent needs to be paid.
Yeah, which is unfortunate because, you're coming like last year, you're coming off of a Super Bowl loss and you lost nobody. You didn't lose anyone. And the only difference from the 23 season to the 24 season was that you couldn't stay healthy. It's either you couldn't stay healthy or you had guys just underperforming to an overwhelming extent. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just
Like a guy like
cool.
Deebo Samuel who underperformed overwhelmingly.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. And you could say injury, you could say underperforming. I would definitely say it's, a little from column A, a little from column B, just not what you need. This was really more of a 2020 Niners kind of year, if you catch my drift.
Yeah.
But, ugh, God. And the thing is, it gets worse than what you see on paper. I wish I could tell you it gets better, Niners fans, but oh no. You're with a capital S, you are screwed.
Yeah.
Because more than the names here, be it cut, trade, or signing somewhere else, you lost Deebo Samuel, Leonard Floyd, Kyle Juszczyk, Javon Hargrave, Malik Collins, Drain Greenlaw, Travarius Ward, Talanoa Hufanga, Aaron Banks, Elijah Mitchell, and Jalen Moore. Those were all like meaningful pieces to your team, and now they're all gone. And I know that you've got a lot of talent, but I saw a take today from Ryan Clark. Now, don't get me wrong. Ryan Clark is just, a lot of people don't like him, and I get why. He's extremely self-important. You can hear the wind whistling through his ears where his brain should be whenever he talks. But he had a take that I don't hate. He said that the Niners should trade Christian McCaffrey and fully commit to a rebuild. And honestly, the only thing I disagree with is that he's not going far enough. Get rid of McCaffrey, get rid of Ayuk, and it's going to stop him. Maybe even get rid of Purdy, because I don't think you can win a Super Bowl with him. He's just, I don't know. He had one of the greatest supporting casts in the league. And do you really want to be wrong if it turns out that he can't do anything with elite weapons? And I don't want to bash Purdy too much because a lot of people do, somewhat unfairly, but I just don't think the future is going to get bright. You're hemorrhaging a lot of pieces. And I don't think, I mean, you can win the division just because your division's kind of a joke.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I wouldn't hate the idea of a rebuild.
I feel like when you look at all of the names that we have on this graphic here of all the players that are departing, along with all the other names that we didn't even add on here, it would go to show that that we should be looking at a rebuild if you're San Francisco, right? Like that, I feel like this has all the ingredients that screams rebuild.
It really does. But the thing is, the Niners are a very prideful organization, and they'll never admit it.
Yeah.
You know what they're going to do? They're just going to make sure the cupboard, the way they're managing things, they're going to, the cupboard's going to end up being bare. And then it's like, okay, then we're just going to sign Brock Purdy. and they're going to be shocked when nothing happens.
Yeah. Let's get to our honorable mention free agency loser, and then we're going to take a quick break. Honorable mention, the Chargers. CJ, what have they done? What have they done?
Nothing.
Yeah. I think the one that scratches my head a little bit. Now, did you resign Bozeman? Solid.
And he's not that good.
Yeah. But the one that kind of scratches my head a little bit is letting Josh Palmer walk. Now, granted, we're going to get to the deal itself in a little bit, but the deal that the Bills ended up giving him is a little ridiculous at that point. So there's not really, there's no good reason to try to match the Bills offer for a wide receiver 3. Like I said, we're going to get to that in a little bit, but it's not a good look so far. And you let Josh Palmer walk when you're already pretty thin at wide receiver. Like your top guy's Lad McConkey, and yeah, you had a great rookie season, but what are we going to see in year 2? You still have Quentin Johnston, who shows flashes, but other than that is still a certified bum. And this is a Chargers team that we kept saying all year long was a consistent wide receiver 1 away from being a bona fide Super Bowl contender, especially with Jim Harbaugh, who is a great coach. You want to give Justin Herbert the best opportunity you can, but now the Chargers felt like this season they took 5 steps forward, but now we're here in free agency. It's like now we're stuck here, maybe even taking a couple steps back. They're stuck. They are currently stuck.
Yeah. And the only 2 free agents that they've signed, like outright, they were on another team last season, were corner Dante Jackson, fair enough, solid signing, and running back Najee Harris, who, for what it's worth, is probably the least efficient running back in the league. And it's like, oh, but he's a 1,000-yard rusher. Yeah, averaging sub 4 yards a carry. I literally just don't care. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
And
like maybe you could make the argument that it's an upgrade from Gus Edwards, who you also got rid
you
of as
really
well.
can't. And,
Yeah, that's what I mean.
J.K. Dobbins is probably gone, too. Here's the thing. You've lost Nick Neiman. You've lost Poona Ford. You've lost Joey Bosa. Josh Palmer's gone. Your guard, Jordan McFadden, is gone. I think Morgan Fox might be gone. Don't quote me on that. Christian Fulton is gone. Like, you still haven't re-signed Asante Samuel Jr. But this is the part that really is a head-scratcher. The Chargers had the 3rd most cap space in the league. And the only thing that I find even remotely comparable to their situation is the Patriots from last year.
CJ, sorry, we have breaking news right now. 4:52 p.m. DeMarcus Lawrence is now a Seahawk.
I used to be a Seahawk, but it's whatever.
What?
No, I'm kidding. No. Nothing. It's a joke.
DeMarcus Lawrence just signed with the Seahawks, 3-year, $42 million max deal with $18 million guaranteed.
Huh. You know what? Good for him. Oh, and just like that, I can hear the Cowboys fans saying, "Oh my God, we suck. I'm a Cowboys fan. I'm so upset with Jerry Jones. I lost 11-3 at a pickup basketball game or something. I don't know, but it's whatever."
That's another Seahawks. We could even make a whole. We could even make a whole topic of like teams that I can't get a read on. Like, what are we doing here? Like, the Seahawks is a team that I can't get a read on right now because they signed Sam Darnold, but they also get rid of DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. Now they're going out and getting DeMarcus Lawrence. It's like the Seahawks and the Steelers I put in the same category of I don't know what the fuck's going on right now. Like what should we be expecting from these two teams? Another 7-10, 8-9, 9-8 season? Like maybe better, maybe worse. I can't get a read on these teams.
No, that they're just so weird. Like they're not going forward, they're not going back. They're just kind of treading water.
Yeah.
Like they're not going to compete for a Super Bowl, but they're too good to tank.
Yeah.
Also, by the way, Levi Onwuzurike, defensive tackle of the Lions, who's actually really good, which is why I'm shocked it's this low, signed a 1-year, $5.5 million deal. Like, you think he would have gotten more, right?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Staying on the Seahawks real quick, Browns safety DeAnthony Bell visiting the Seahawks this weekend.
Below mid.
Special teamer. That's what the Rappaport report just said.
Oh, he is, but I don't know. It's whatever. But yeah.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get into more of the specifics in terms of the big names that made big moves, or at least a few of them. Big names and big moves in the last 72 hours. This is the Fumblerooski podcast.
It may not have always showed it in the stat sheet, but you can see him making throws when he needs to make the throws.
Back-to-back games where he has 3 touchdowns. Someone's got to get that 6 or 7 spot.
He's an elite wide receiver as a rookie.
Truly a lose-lose scenario for both sides.
Welcome back to the Fumblerooski podcast, Power 18 Radio and Secret Weapon Consulting. Chris Costich, CJ Medeiros. First, we're going to talk about the Myles Garrett saga. Definitely one of the odder ones. And honestly, you could kind of mix this whole thing with the DK Metcalf thing together in terms of money talks. That's probably the biggest thing that you could really take away from this whole thing, right? Money talks. Myles Garrett said he doesn't want to play in Cleveland anymore. And all it took was $100 million in guaranteed money to keep him there. DK Metcalf doesn't want to play in cold weather. He'll accept the 3-year deal from the Steelers, though. Money talks, and that is yeah. Well, technically speaking, if we're comparing the average temperatures per month during the football season between Seattle and Pittsburgh is significantly warmer by about 10 degrees. So technically he is going to a warmer spot, but oh well. Yeah. So Myles Garrett, after Jimmy Haslam declined a meeting with him, basically it's just a matter of one side caving and the other side being like, well, problem solved. Let's just throw a bag at the other guy. Literally a deal that he couldn't refuse. And it's just one of those situations where you just say, all right, what's your price? And we'll sign it off. Myles Garrett gave him the price, and there you go. Yeah. CJ, your thoughts on this?
Yikes. I better not see a Myles Garrett 30 for 30 where he's like, my only regret, when he's old and gray is that I never won a ring. I'm going to point back to this moment and say, my man, look what you did.
Yeah.
You sold your soul for more money. And I don't know, maybe Jimmy Haslam and their GM Barry pulled out the greatest gaslighting, like a guilt trip this side of the Mississippi. But I'm stunned about how he's like, no, I want to trade. I want to win a ring. And they're like, hey, 40 mil a year, 123 guaranteed, take it or leave it. And I guess he took it.
Yep.
I mean, so it's over. He's not going to win a ring. Not so long as Deshaun Weinstein is still their quarterback. I don't know. And that contract does kind of screw Cleveland,
Yeah.
Also, the only thing I'll give Cleveland a Scotia credit for is that this totally screws with their division rival, the Bengals, who are trying to dump Trey Hendrickson.
Yeah, that's kind of the other thing. Obviously I mentioned the Bengals sitting on their hands and just failing to extend the players that they need to keep on their team before the market gets out of hand. And like the thing with Trey Hendrickson is that he already got an extension from a couple years ago, and we're at the point where it's a little bit of Hendrickson being greedy and both being like, well, he is technically the best pass rusher right now in the league. If we take out Myles Garrett, potentially, just statistics wise, Hendrickson had the most sacks this season. So if we're just going based off sacks, then yeah, he deserves that money. But now, like I said, now the market is going to get out of hands, and it's going to make it a little bit harder for the Bengals to find a potential suitor for Hendrickson to get shipped off to, who's willing to take on all this money potentially, or even be a 1-year rental if you want to take that risk as well.
Yeah. I don't know. Once again, I do think a lot of this was just through with the Bengals, which, hey, a little divisional pettiness never hurt anyone. Well, except the Bengals just now, but we don't care.
Yeah.
The Bengals also did kind of bring it on themselves. But
yeah.
Overall, I like I said, my big takeaway is that in a few years, he's just going to be lamenting that he never won. And the rest of us can just say, really, dude? And we're all going to point back to this moment, or at least I will.
Yeah. So contract $40 million per year, $123 million in guaranteed money, and literally a week, not even a week after Max Crosby was made the highest paid non-QB in NFL history, Myles Garrett took that crown from him almost immediately. Which what a fuck you to Max Crosby. Let him have the moment for at least a week. Just let him have that. Just let him have that. Don't give him 3 days to be like, yeah, that's right, I'm the shit. No, let's only give him 3 days to celebrate that.
The anti-Max Crosby slander is strong. Good Lord.
Hey, I love Max Crosby. I'm not saying fuck Max Crosby. I'm whatever.
Yeah, I know. I just meant for Myles Garrett.
Yeah. More breaking news. Cowboys are in the finishing stages of a trade for Titans linebacker Kenneth Murray Jr. as the teams are swapping late round picks.
Okay.
Just came in. Other news that happened over the weekend, Geno Smith got traded to the Raiders. That kind of goes hand in hand with our next topic, big names changing teams and free agency. Of course, Geno Smith being before free agency really started, but it was Geno Smith, DK Metcalf. You just tangle these names together in terms of big trades that happened over the weekend before free agency started. Kind of weird that I just threw Geno Smith in as a big name, I guess. But in terms
starting
of
quarterback, it's newsworthy.
Yeah, and he's back with Pete Carroll as well. And Pete Carroll, of course, being the guy that essentially saved Geno Smith's career. So going to be interesting to see how that goes on in Vegas, especially now that Geno Smith is going to be throwing balls to Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers. So that'll honestly, the Raiders just improved that much more from what they were dealing with last year in AOC and Gardner Minshew.
Yeah, I mean, they're still the Raiders. They're not a threat in their own division, but I mean, it's a nice thing, I guess. The question is, though, for me, are they going to extend them? No one knows. That's the fun.
Yeah, that's the other thing I was going to throw in there too, and that kind of goes with a point that I've kind of hammered down the last few weeks, and the fact that the quarterback position is going to get hit with a huge reset. And looking at Geno Smith right now, actually, how old is he right now? Geno Smith is currently 34. So if the quarterback market or quarterback position is going to reset the way I think it is, then Geno Smith really only has 2 years left to work with. because we're not going to see many more quarterbacks play efficiently into their high 30s, low 40s. Or Tom Brady, for as much as I love him, and he's like my favorite player to ever grace a football field, he essentially ruined the image of what people have as a quarterback in terms of being able to play into your 40s, that type of thing. And we're seeing it now with like Kirk Cousins. He's barely he's in his high 30s right now, and he's did not have a good season last year. So we're kind of seeing that right now. But other big names that are on a new team: Devontae Adams signing a 2-year, $46 million deal with $26 million guaranteed. So you decide to go away from Cooper Kupp. Okay, I think the problem with me is that when you make the decision that like that, you're thinking of going younger in your receiving core. But instead, they go essentially the same age bracket and signed Devontae Adams. More breaking news before we go further. Khalil Herbert signing with the Colts on a 1-year deal. Devontae Adams, though, he's 32. Cooper Kupp, 31.
Will Herbert, he hasn't done a whole lot lately. So, but we appreciate the thing. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Hey, I got
posting
you.
it.
I got you, bro. I got you.
By the way, for those who don't know, who listen, I posted like all the free agent news. I'm tired.
Yeah,
I'm so tired.
CJ's kicking ass. That's all you can ask for. But Devontae Adams is 32. Cooper Kupp's 31. So I guess I don't really understand why the Rams decided to go with Devontae Adams over Cooper Kupp, because I feel like you're just getting the same player in both. Like, I feel like you're going to get great football from both Cooper Kupp and Devontae Adams, no matter what happens. Now, if Devontae Adams can perform the way that he did in Green Bay and do the same thing here in LA, I think that's going to be pretty sick. Matt Stafford throwing to both Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua. Like, on paper, it sounds like some fun football to watch on Sundays. But what are we actually going to see? Because obviously, watching Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, and Matt Stafford sling around on offense every Sunday was awesome enough. But will this lead the same way? Maybe not.
Very possible, but I don't know. At bare minimum, it's just going to be fun to watch.
Yeah. At least you hope that it's going to be fun to watch. That's the big thing. You hope.
If it doesn't, I'm not even a Rams fan, and I'm going to be sad.
Yeah, I would be sad too. I'm going to cry. But the big, probably the bigger thing, really, from free agency that happened like literally as soon as it started on Monday was Chris Godwin. He was going to be the top guy in the free agency market up until Cooper Kupp just getting released earlier today. Re-signing with the Buccaneers, 3 years, $66 million. And I guess that'll lead into what we're going to call deals that we like. Although he's not a Patriot, in which a lot of Patriots fans were hoping that we were going to capitalize on Chris Godwin, and boy, the Patriots took a massive fucking swing at Chris Godwin. Reports came out shortly thereafter that Godwin left a lot of money on the table, actually, to stay in Tampa Bay. And when you look at the deal here, I mean, you're getting Chris Godwin for $22 million, a lot cheaper than what a lot of other teams were willing to pay. And on top of that, you keep a great receiving core now. Because realistically, when you look at the Bucs last year, you thought that they were going to build off of their improbable divisional round playoff run that they were on in the 23 season. 24 season wasn't so much like that. It was because they couldn't stay healthy. Now you got Chris Godwin back off of him tearing his ACL. Who knows what's going to happen here? It could be some good shit coming up next year. And before the ACL tear, Chris Godwin was on an absolute tear, no pun intended. But he was playing insane ball.
Yeah.
If he can keep that up next year, holy shit. Like Baker Mayfield may throw for 5K. He's probably going to throw for over 40. Like this, we could see a big Baker Mayfield year, along with, of course, you might as well just say that Mike Evans is going to get 1,000 yards. You're probably going to get 15 from Chris Godwin for all we know. Like this could be a massive year for this Bucs offense.
Yeah, the only thing that concerns me once again is the injury.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they don't come back. I mean, many people will say it always sucks, but it's probably better to tear your ACL than your Achilles, because that's like the death sentence, especially if you're around the age of 30 as an athlete. But yeah, so I think he'll be able to bounce back from that. So it's cool. So as for a deal that I personally like, I had to really think about it because there weren't too many deals where I'm like, oh my God, this is awesome that I absolutely, just needed. But, I liked Josh Sweat to the Cardinals on the 4-year, $76 million deal. Now, I was so tempted to go with Milton Williams, but, I don't want to be a homer. But yeah, so 4 years, $76 million for Josh Sweat, well-deserved after last season. Pure pass rush specialist, fills one of the biggest needs for the Cardinals, which is the fact that they couldn't generate pressure if the quarterback was standing behind a bunch of traffic cones and pylons. And not to mention, he's going to be reuniting with former defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon, and it's just something where all sides win. And when you consider that guys like Josh Sweat and the market, oh my God, the market that you have to deal with after Myles Garrett just got paid $40 million a year, that's a steal. So yeah, take a bow, Cardinals. That was a great contract.
Hell yeah. And I mean, the Cardinals, like they were in the mix last year as well. It's just they were too inconsistent for their own good.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, CJ, you get a good pass rusher like Josh Sweat, that could really swing things in a good way, especially for getting something that you need. One more deal that I'm going to throw in there that I like, not necessarily in a like logical sense, because it's Sam Darnold getting signed to the Seahawks. I like the deal because Sam Darnold, like last year, was basically a prove it year. And yeah, he didn't show up in the big games, but you still got 15 to 16 very, very good Sam Darnold games.
It is market rate. That's the thing. It's market rate, though. That's the thing.
Yeah.
And only $100 million for a QB. That's not all guaranteed. Honestly, it could do a lot worse.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how he goes from a very offensive-minded coach in Kevin O'Connell to defensive-minded head coach in Mike McDonald.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah, it's going to be something. I mean, but you have JSN, you got Walker, you got Charbonnet. I mean, you got no
Walker and Charbonnet can stay healthy.
Big if, isn't it? But yeah, overall, but I agree. And there is one other contract that I like. Dre Greenlaw signing with the Broncos on a 3-year, $35 million deal. For a guy of Greenlaw's caliber, that's a great deal, coming off an injury or not. And he's already going to bolster a tough Broncos defense. And there is one thing, though. Do you know why he hit the market other than, the obvious Niners and a cap crunch, needing to pay Purdy, et cetera, et cetera? Yeah. I'll tell you why. Do you know what the Niners offered him? A 1-year prove-it deal because your injury. It's like, really, Niners? Really? Like, is that the game you're going to play?
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah, so Broncos getting the last laugh. I think it was a great contract.
Yeah. Deals that we don't like. So
there's a few.
yeah, the one in particular I'm going to throw out there, we touched on it like very, very briefly. Josh Palmer getting a 3-year, 36 million. I'm trying to find it right now, and I've
3-year,
lost it.
$36 million deal to Josh Palmer from Buffalo.
So this is kind of what I was saying earlier with the Chargers when we were talking about them being an honorable mention for free agency loser. This is kind of what I was talking about. In no way in hell are you trying to match the Bills on a 3-year, $36 million offer for Josh Palmer. If you probably knock off about 15 mil of that, maybe.
Yeah.
Because really,
He's
solid. He's a
And the
solid
leader?
receiver. If you want to say that the Bills are paying for maybe a upgrade from Mac Hollins, maybe that's if you want to make that argument that one or the other is better. But we're talking about realistically like wide receiver 2, but more of a wide receiver 3. Like he was a wide receiver 3 on the Chargers, even with Quentin Johnston being a bum. Like he was a wide receiver 3 with Keenan Allen, Mike Williams there, wide receiver 3. McConkey and Johnson there, wide receiver 3. So I don't really get where we're getting at here with handing Josh Palmer that much money. And like I said, like if you're the Chargers, no way in hell are you trying to match that deal, which is why you kind of have to let him walk at that point. If you're Josh Palmer, you're thinking you just fucking got the heist of the century at this point, I think. But CJ, your thoughts, I guess.
I was so stunned because the Bills need a wide receiver 1. I am not sold on Keon Coleman. I'm certainly not sold on Curtis Samuel. And look, I know maybe they think that it's Khalil Shakir, but I think he's a high-end number 2. I mean, no defense is going to be like, ooh, shiver me timbers. It's Khalil Shakir. I'm so scared. Time to put my head in the sand and hope he doesn't pillage too much. I mean, look, he's good, but it's also Khalil Shakir. So I don't understand, I guess. Like, unless you think that he's like going to be the gem of this class, but I don't know. He's not going to be wide receiver 1 because it's going to be Shakir. Your number 2 is probably Keon Coleman. So then he's number 3.
Yeah.
You're paying that for a 3, are you?
You're paying that for a 3. You're paying that for a 3.
So, but as for a contract that I don't like, I'm going to get some hate for this one. I don't care. Dan Moore to Pittsburgh.
Who?
Yeah, Dan Moore. Wait, Dan Moore from Pittsburgh, not to Pittsburgh. I meant from. Going to the Tennessee Titans. Dan Moore from Pittsburgh to the Titans, left tackle, got paid a 4-year, $82 million deal. And if I'm a Titans fan, do you know what scares me, Chris?
What scares you?
Every Steelers fan, when they saw that, was jumping for joy that he was gone. And I remember I was talking to one of our co-hosts. You may know him. His name's Adam, if you listen to the podcast. He was, the Patriots, our team they're looking at Dan Moore. I'm like, oh God, no. He's awful. And look, and I know tackles are expensive, but that much for Dan Moore? Every Yinzer, another name for Steelers fan, across the nation is dancing on metal beams and chugging Yingling because he's gone. Like if you've ever watched Star Wars, this is like the damn Ewok celebration after Return of the Jedi. Oh no, they're blowing the horns, they're lighting stuff on fire. They are celebrating that he's gone. In fact, I even moseyed on over on Instagram some Steelers fan pages, and they all said, oh my God, somebody actually paid him. And I was so worried it was going to be us. Like, if you're the Titans, how do you look at that reaction? How people are thrilled that he's gone and say, yes, I'm so comfortable giving him an $82 million deal. Lord have mercy. That's just
Talk about other bad deals. The Giants. Darius Slayton getting the same contract that Saquon Barkley probably should have been getting 3 years, 36
or was
mil,
gonna
but
get. Yeah.
was going to get. And instead it now goes to Darius Slayton. The Giants might as well just toss themselves off of Ellis Island at this point and just restart. They need to just start over it. And the meme that keeps getting sent around right now is that there is no signed quarterback right now in their quarterback room. And it's
There's
probably
really
the
not.
best. Actually, pardon, Tommy
There's.
DeVito.
I was saying,
Tommy
oh yeah, you got
DeVito,
Tommy
actually.
Cutlets. Oh,
But you take Tommy DeVito away, and it's probably the best QB room that the Giants have had in like since Eli.
and that's the truth.
Since Eli Manning and Geno Smith shared quarterback room. Remember that when Eli Manning got benched, ruining his Iron Man streak for Geno Smith?
I remember that people got so like bent out of shape over it. It's like, all right, show me the trophy you get for it.
Yeah. I mean, it's an NFL record, or was going to be an NFL record, or is an NFL record?
Something like that.
Because I know he was going to be battling with Brett Favre for that. Not sure, but yeah. Anyways, that's the only other one that I really want to throw out there. CJ, did you have one more that you wanted to toss in as well, or no?
The thing is, it's not a bad deal. It's just bad. I mean, it's actually horrible when you give it context.
Yeah.
That's
No,
what Saquon wanted, and you said no. And you said, okay, well, here you go, Darius Slayton.
Yeah.
Also, I wasn't really crazy about what's his name there, Tershawn Wharton going to the Panthers. Like, I think he's fine. We got to realize he lives behind Chris Jones. He was a situational guy, and the Panthers gave him a 3-year, $54 million deal. Like, I mean, I knew he was good, but I feel like that's probably $20 million more than what he should be getting.
Yeah. Oh, freaking A.
Yeah. That's all I got.
That's all the scheduled content then that we have. Other news, I feel like we because this happened on Sunday, so we haven't talked about this yet. Josh Allen getting the bag, a fat fucking bag to say the least. On Sunday, got signed to a 6-year extension. And if you give me one moment, I'm going to have the rest of the details for you. But basically 6 years, over 600 mil. What?
Or is it like, I think it's like 300 mil guaranteed or something like that. It's like, or the contract, it's 250 million guarantee, which I think is the largest guarantee in NFL history. Yep. Amazing what no Super Bowls, 0-2 in the AFC Championship game, and a Make-A-Wish MVP will get you.
I said the same damn thing. One MVP, no Super Bowl appearances,
and an MVP it was a pity MVP,
and you get thrown $580 million. But yeah, the 330 million, 250 million guaranteed. Look, yeah, he doesn't have a Super Bowl appearance. Finally got that one MVP. And honestly, you could say more the fact that maybe he doesn't have an MVP because of who else is in the league. Lamar and Patrick Mahomes being the only other guys to get MVP since 2022, because Rodgers won it in 22 or 21, one of those 2 years, or both of them, actually, now that I think of it. So couple that fact in, then yeah, obviously, finally, like Allen just getting his first MVP doesn't come as a big surprise. Yeah, he doesn't have any Super Bowl appearances because, once again, look who he's got to deal with in the AFC, and look who his coach is, a dipshit. All I could say is that, yeah. Do I believe he deserves his contract? Sure. Would I have paid him a little bit less? Yeah, sure. I think that you could make the argument that he shouldn't get this money, but especially from this past year, I feel like that you can't not give him this type of payday if you overlook all of the external facts of, oh, no Super Bowl appearances, only one MVP, this and that, yada, yada, yada. If you overlook that and just look at it in the way of the eye test, I guess, then yeah, he deserves it. He deserves it. But it's not a good look. Like, you could even say it's almost like throwing Dak Prescott that type of money when he got his extension and he doesn't have shit.
Yeah, there is one thing though that I will give the Bills credit for. It's better to jump on an extension sooner rather than later.
Yes.
Because if you don't dictate the market's going to dictate you and what you do. And you don't want to be a team like the Cowboys or the Bengals who just wait too long on their good free agents and then just have to pay them. Like that Micah Parsons deal probably just got 20 mil more expensive. Same thing for Trey Hendrickson and Cincy. About, like I said, two teams just sit there and let the market dictate them instead of being proactive. Like if you're Buffalo, especially with quarterback, that's not the position to screw around with because you need an elite one to win games. Gone are the days where a team can elevate an guy. That guy can elevate an team. That it's done the complete inverse.
Yeah. For sure. Both can still be true, but when you look at who's been winning the Super Bowls most recently, you can get by with probably the best quarterback in the league and not have a great team surrounding him.
Yep.
That is all the scheduled content that we have here today. CJ, anything else that you wanted to throw out there before we end the show?
Nope.
Good. I'm glad. Let's keep it that way.
Me too.
You got a problem with me?
Several, but that's for off camera. No, I'm playing with you.
Yeah, whatever, pal. Whatever. That'll do it for us tonight. Thank you for tuning in, of course. New episode coming out on Friday at 5. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also have all our episodes available on Spotify, Spreaker, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, Google Podcast, and so much more. Be sure to follow our Instagram, Fumblerooski_podcast, to keep up with the pod and latest coverage on the NFL. Otherwise, for myself, Chris Costich, he's CJ Medeiros, signing out. See you on Friday.